Pledge allegiance
to the flag
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just want to, I've reorganized the agenda today to put public comments after we get an assessor's update, because Judith has been working back-to-back heavy schedule, meeting with property owners on their assessments. So she's going to give us a little bit of an update first, and then we will go to public comments. So thank you for taking time out of your hugely busy schedule to come in.
You're very welcome. And I would also like to start off quickly by thanking my staff, Blanca, who's holding down the fort right now, and Laurel and Pat. We've all been fielding the phone calls, making appointments and scheduling. And I've been sitting down and meeting with taxpayers along with Pat. And we've had about, I'd say, between 100 and 110 meetings so far, in person and over the phone. I have probably about another 40 to 50 scheduled so far. And I will keep taking appointments until my schedule on Friday, April 5th fills up. Once that fills up, I have other things I need to be doing for the month of April. So then we can reconvene in May after the second tentative notice is mailed. So that would be May 5th, I believe. Yes, May 5th. And
Well, I thought it was done at the end of this month, but
it is, but if there are some people who didn't make it before Friday the 4th, then we can reconvene Monday, May 5th. But it'll be different at that point in time. So
And you just said there's a second notice or something that goes?
there will be a second notice sent out. This is a new process for me from doing this first notice to the second notice. I'm not sure if everyone will receive a second notice. I'm hoping I'm going to send everyone a second notice, but it might just be the people who had changes. But I'm fairly certain it's everybody, but I will double check. And most of the meetings, people, once I explain to them, they're more understanding, because it was such a drastic jump in 1 year. It's been over 4 years, we haven't had any changes, your assessments have remained stagnant, market values have continued to climb. So once I've explained that situation, most people are a little more understanding. People are coming in with comparable sales. And the one thing I really need to stress is that this is based on July 1st, 2024, not today, right? So that means sales that have just occurred in the last month or two, I cannot use them right now. They're too new, right? If you were doing a private appraisal, then it might work, but not for this particular instance. And
you said you've done 110 so far?
between 100 and 110 that we have recorded.
That's impressive. It's a lot of meetings.
Mm-hmm. It is. And there's definitely a lot of people who I still need to get back to, and I will get back to them. It's just a matter of, I'd like to take more than 10 minutes to evaluate their property a second time. Right, so I'd like to give their property the time it needs and the time it deserves before I just say yes or no.
That's fair.
Yeah.
What's been the overall trend of the 110? 50% are getting adjusted? Or
A lot of them I haven't made a decision on yet in terms of reviewing their comparable sales. Because the back-to-back meetings, there's so many back-to-back that I don't, like I said, I haven't taken the time to evaluate their property, and I'd like to take more than the 10 minutes I have in between to really take a look. So.
I had come up with a list of questions on Friday, and I don't think the town board came up with any other ones. Do you have a sense of how many people are likely to come in and grieve at the Board of Assessment review?
I do not. There's definitely been several people who have asked to do that rather than speak to me. I'd say there's probably about 10 to 15 of those so far. But those are all that I know of, who I've actually spoken to.
So in a normal year, it sounds like that's gonna be a little bit of an uptick, because I feel like,
Probably. And in pre-COVID, it was around 120. Post-COVID, it was around 80.
Mhm.
So,
So what happens in May is going to be a formal grievance?
correct. And it would be using a state application, and it goes to the Board of Assessment Review.
there's some years where they sit there a good chunk of the day with no one coming in, so.
I don't know if you have any more
Could I just ask a couple of questions? Okay, I was sort of surprised you were coming here today. I mean, I knew from Friday, okay, but are some people getting relief?
Some are, yes.
Okay, and I guess the thing that I'm throwing this out because there's been a lot of conversation over this, okay? The original plans for the assessment, okay, they were supposed to have been done on a one-on-one basis, okay? And I think everybody sent, I think there were some forms that were sent out last year on 2024, so you had updated information, okay? But all the assessments, the few people I've spoken about this, they're saying the assessments are not being done on the physical property inventory, but it's being done on a digital basis, meaning it's coming from comps, or from, it's coming from comps that they have it. Is that correct? Meaning, we're not doing one-on-one, it's basically, there's a formula, or you're going into comps that are, you're going back into the digital format of getting the information,
All market values are based on comparable sales.
right?
Right, so what someone has just paid for a home in the market, that has just set the market value. Whatever house that just sold, that, whatever price that is the market value for that home, right? So all properties then are compared to what sales have sold. And it's always 3 to 5 sales,
Right.
always. And we use 3 sales. So yes.
And the other thing that was, the other question was there something submitted prior? Was there something submitted that was rejected from New York State?
Yes, I had submitted something prior and it was rejected by the state.
Okay, could I ask what that is, or?
So I had gone through and I had manually done all 3,000 parcels, right? And I did company sales for each and every parcel. And I looked at the inventory, I looked at the sales. And when I submitted it, New York State said that I didn't raise the values high enough. I only brought it to 88%. I didn't bring it up to 100%.
Okay.
So then I had to revisit everything and do it over.
And who did the final, the one that we're working on currently, 2025?
Our database did it.
You say our database in-house or from New York
In-house,
State?
Yes, it is a New York State program. It is essentially owned by them,
Right.
but we pay for the licensing. And that is what we use, and that is what most assessors in New York State use,
Okay,
because they provide support for that software.
so we're doing it on comparable sales, right? But it's really not one-on-one, but it's basically on some type of a program or something that you're gathering all this information from.
And that is how it's always been done.
So it's not on a one-on-one inventory. You don't look at each house, every property, how many bedrooms and all that other stuff.
We look at that information, yes, but it's always based on 3 different sales. It's never just compared to one property, because very few properties are identical.
Right.
Right, that have just sold. So that's why we have 3 comparable sales to find which ones fit the most to that mold.
And I, for some reason, I thought we were updating, I thought that was what we were doing one-on-one, looking at each individual property individually. But is that not way it was, we did it? We didn't do it that way?
Can I ask a clarifying question? Gordon, are you asking if she took each property individually and compared it to 3 sales that are comparable to that property?
what I'm trying to get, what I'm trying to understand, okay, is that obviously this is full assessment, okay? And the forms were sent in, and I'm trying to understand, are we just looking at comps to determine it? Or is it really just all computer generated, okay, on comps, or were the properties individually looked at? That's what I'm asking.
She's already said she looks at every individual property.
And I did that the first time.
Okay, okay,
This time around, our computer system did it. But it's still based on, you take one property and it chooses the 3 best comparable sales for that one property.
Okay,
Are you reading out the list of questions?
everyone?
You're reading out the list of questions?
I know, I just had some notes for today.
I was just, because I had asked that we give her questions ahead of time because she's under so much pressure with all
Okay.
the meetings. So I was just,
Very good.
you're throwing more at her than just,
Right.
I'd asked for courtesy to give her a heads up.
Anything else?
We have a question on Zoom. Pam?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. I just wanted a clarification. Judith, you're taking appointments for the reassessment meetings with you up until April 5th now and not March
Correct.
31st?
Yes,
Oh,
correct.
so you're giving us an extra week. Okay.
Yes.
All right, terrific. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Do we have any questions in the physical audience?
In what way you asking? Particularly
Yeah, on this topic.
on this topic, yes, I do.
Okay, all right. We'll call on you first, Paul, and then we'll go to,
Hello, my name is Paul Udon. I live at 97 South Ferry Road. Just one more backstory. I just came back from 3 weeks visiting friends and family in Florida. I opened up my mail, and what did I find? My tax assessment. My tax assessment has gone up 128% in 1 year. I was $675,000 in 2024, and now I'm $1,550,000. My house is still on Highway 114, still has a noise. If I don't close the windows, it's noisy. And there has been no improvements appreciably in 10 years. So everything I have is 10 years older than it was when I built the house. My taxes have gone from, we'll round them down, from $4,000 to $6,000. I'm just having a hard time with that. I'm going to go to your office and I'm going to talk. But I'm reading this from the way we get our news, I'm reading this from the reporter. The only people who are going to be happy with this, and I found one person that's relatively happy. I have another friend who's gone up 46%. The cost that makes us have these values, and it's anecdotal, but it's probably right on the money, and there's more reasons. After COVID, people started buying. They figured that if they didn't have to show up at work, they work from home, they could work from shelter, better place to live, okay? Escape from New York City or wherever. Also, the speculation and the building. It's money, money, money. So if I get some relief on my new tax bill, proposed tax bill, it is going to get, unless the wheels fall off, the local economy of Shelter Island, where the people have the means to buy in and can say, I'm going to spend another $200,000, even though I don't wanna, and I can go another $5,000 on my taxes. People of different means will just keep coming, and my taxes go up because every other sale around me is going to go up for years unless something absolutely happens with national economy and Shelter Island's economy. You drive off this island, it's the same thing, spec houses, every place you go, the north or south route, there's another thing popping up like a mushroom. So that's it in a nutshell. But I read from the reporter in December 24, they were talking about the people who were gonna make out on this deal, or the people who are living neighborhoods that have declined. What neighborhood has declined? It the little bungalows that are over by IGA. I don't know. I don't know what has declined in this market. It boggles my mind. But that makes them, those people, and God bless them if they need more, fine. But the distribution on this thing is mind-boggling. It has ruined like 5 days of my sleep now, because this is picking my pocket to the tune of 200, almost $200 a month. That is my budget for when I entertain my family during season. That's the food, the general food budget for my family of 4 grown kids, 4 and 8 grandkids. And that's the kind of money I spend to feed them and let them enjoy this place. It's I think you're gonna have a lot of unhappy people here. I don't know what the sort out is. You probably have a handle on it right now. But I will not say the name. I had somebody in this office tell me that most people are coming in and are not happy. The calendar was filled, so I'm doing a phone call on Monday afternoon. This is just kind of on the horrendous side. And if I seem a little contentious, it's like, I don't want my pocket picked for $2,000. When I came here, nobody told me I had a tax abatement, and when I hit the 10th year, I'll pay 50% more. They welcomed me, and I paid my taxes as it was figured back then, and all this other anomaly. I'm looking, I don't think I'm gonna get much relief, but I'm looking for something reasonable for me. Also, the last thing we're talking about, the dates this is extended to. My wife is an English teacher. We read the little blurb, I don't know how many times. It is not really in a particular legalistic jargon, but I would venture to say the other senior citizens were maybe getting a little bit slower, like all us senior citizens do at a point. And the people with maybe a little bit less of an academic intelligence who have to read that will do not understand. We've got the snowbirds who are not all back by April. They're just starting to come back. They didn't pick up their mail like I didn't. They should have the chance to get in and solve and look at this problem if they have. We also have the people who, like I said, the senior citizens and the people with maybe a little bit less of an intellectual intelligence, because it is not particularly clear. And I think the people on this island deserve that. And the people who come in late, they should have the opportunity to say, I never heard about this, or I cannot understand this. It's like running the VCR, you have to have the kids do it for you. It's the same kind of thing. And thank you for your time. That's all.
Thank you.
Kim Nolan, you had your hand up next. You're muted if.
Hi. I have a two-part question. The first part addresses what Councilman Gooding said, which is the way that you are coming up with the 3, maybe 5 comparables is computer generated. And my question is, what data is in that computer to generate those comparables? What about properties? And I've looked at a bunch of them, just kind of because the assessor's letter says, please use the internet to find out available information. And I've looked at some of them and they just don't match what that property is. So the question about the data is the first one versus, having someone with knowledge have an oversight on picking the 3 comparables that you use. And I understand how much work Judith probably put in to creating that presentation for New York State that they rejected and told her that it just wasn't high enough. But I'm wondering, on what basis New York has to say that? In other words, what is the legality here? The only thing that I've heard so far of a reason to follow what New York wants us to do is we get $5 per property for having done a fair market analysis of that property. So $5 times 3,500 properties is 17,000. To me, that is totally insufficient, given the money that is being spent on things, to justify the kind of pain and suffering that New York is visiting on the town. And finally, this is all very general as opposed to specific, and it is meant to be so because I think we have to step back and figure out how things are run when our hardworking, competent assessor who really knows the island gets told what to do like this. And finally, I will just echo the idea that maybe you want to give people a few more weeks because I don't think people really understand. And, by the time you get to May and you're going to make an objection or maybe go in front of the grievance board here. And I realize there have been years when nobody came in the room for the whole day. But I guarantee you that's not happening this year. And you are so far along the process from where you want to be, which is to sit down and have a friendly conversation with your knowledgeable long-term assessor here about, what everybody seems to know about these properties and neighborhoods. Thank you.
Do you want to take any part of that? I just, the 17,000 is one sort of carrot for the town, but when I went to New York State Association of Towns, I sat in on a couple of assessor classes just because this is such a hot topic for us this year. And it is, the town is required to, by law, to have fair and equitable assessments. And you can tell from this year that we were obviously not fair and equitable because you had neighborhoods where, Ram Island, for instance, where property values only increased 50%, whereas in the center of the island, property values increased 100%. So
128%.
in certain, yes, in some instances, yes, I'm just talking in generalities. But so we obviously were not fair and equitable. So the state would at some point come down and,
And the state verifies this. The state verifies the sales as well, because they review the data to make sure what we're doing is fair and equitable. They're the ones that come up with our equalization rate, saying where we stand with our market values versus our assessed values to make sure that everything is legitimate and validated.
Yeah. So the fair and equitable part is, people who are seeing an increase over time, that increase should have been stepped in, but they were underpaying in prior years. And then you've got other properties that were overpaying for a number of years. So, there's pain all around. There could be people who come and say, hey, we should have done this 3 years ago. My taxes are going to go down or stay flat. So.
Well, the other thing is that you're not, what's driving everything will be the budget. That has nothing to do with what you're dealing with. So, that's, the town board determines what we spend. And I think that's a big component this year. Okay, how do we keep our expenses under control so as to reduce the pain that's going on? And I think this gentleman made a very good comment about what's going on, and there's a lot of pain.
I mean, this, people keep,
But it's not, but just the other thing is that, just to clarify this, Amber, this 100% assessment is something that Shelter Island has always done, but it's not a mandatory thing in the state of New York because our neighbors are not at full assessment.
What fair and equitable is, and the easiest way to gauge whether or not you're being.
I understand that, but not everybody is, just to be clarified,
Yes.
I know there's been some misunderstanding.
But that's why I said the law is technically fair and equitable. It's not 100%. It's fair and equitable. It's just easiest to assess.
It's just hard to explain that to seniors who are living on fixed income and are living with homeowners insurance and all these other expenses. So I really get it, okay? And that's not something that not on you, okay? It's where we it's because we haven't had updates all along. That's what people are more
Yes.
angry about, is that charge me 200 more a year and whatever, but let this big space of time go by and be hit with a dramatic increase. I get it, okay? And I think that's why, I think the thing that the town board can do to help offset some of this is really by controlling our spending, okay? And I know we've had this conversation before, okay, but I just want to make sure everybody knows it's not coming from you. You're not determining what your tax bill is, okay?
I'm just analyzing the market data.
Right.
Well, your job is to determine what piece of the budget pie belongs to each piece of property, and that's it.
Yes.
And it's just not your fault.
Yeah. Sandra, you have a question?
Yes, it's, I'm surprised at the low number out of 3,000 properties, the low number of people who have spoken to the assessor's office. But I wonder if part of that is how many of those 3,000 residents personally have the wherewithal to come up with alternate comps or have the money to pay a professional to do that for them. I truly believe, and I'm not, I mean, this is the situation, but it just seems to me there's a definite advantage in this process to the types of people I just described. And they probably don't represent a very large percentage of those 3,000 homeowners. I mean, I would have felt it helpful if somebody had, if maybe there'd been a tutorial about how you can do this. How I just don't think the average person can come up with 3 alternate comps. So,
Well,
I mean, does
everybody
anybody else
thinks
think
that-
200 people is a low number? Coming to
also
the
more
assessor's
than-
office?
We're also more than happy to share, the spreadsheet we have of sales from the last couple of years for anyone
Right.
to look at.
Right. But do people know that? I mean, does the general public know the information that's available to them?
I would imagine so. We get requests all the time for it,
Okay. All right.
even before this, so.
Mm.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
Because I will not be in your office. Mine
I
was
just have a
fine.
quick question. You have a meeting starting at 1:30?
2:00.
Okay, just because we're
That's
coming up
very
on
good.
1:30 and I know you have a short window.
I'm just wondering, is everybody's tax bill like mine? Because I look at my tax bill, it says 68% assessment, blah, 100% assessment, blah. And when we moved the full 100% assessment, it just went to the number that was already printed on my bill. I mean, it wasn't a surprise, it didn't come out of nowhere.
I mean, some did and some didn't.
Oh, so not every bill was like that.
That information is there, but the numbers are different, or can be different.
Because I went back, I pulled my bill from last year, and it said my current assessment is $1. Your 100% assessment is $1.50. And it was using the dollar number for the amount of taxes that I owed. And then when we went to full assessment, it just went to $1.50. And it was always on my bill. It was always right in front of me.
Yeah.
Not everyone's looked at that, because I've had people come in and ask me about it too, because they know I understand how the puzzle piece fits together. I mean, I've spent,
And none of it has anything to do with how
Yeah.
much taxes you pay, because then you gotta take the budget and then just apply a rate to get your tax bill. Okay,
Judith, just one last thing. If there is some relief to homeowners as they go through this budget, going through this process, the rest of the taxpayers are picking up the bill, is that correct? Okay, so whenever there's a relief given in one area to someone, the rest of the people are gonna be picking up whatever that relief is, okay?
Correct.
Okay.
unless we reduce the budget.
Well, it's based on last year's budget. Okay, that,
We would have to like for some people, we'd have to cut the budget by like.
A lot.
A lot, and then the people who've gotten increases would then be kept whole, and those who've seen decreases would be getting a huge tax decrease.
well, that rate is based on the fact that it's from last year's budget. That means there's no increase over last year.
Yeah,
So in order to be what you've printed, it would mean that we would have zero increase in our budget for the 2026. Okay, and I think that's the goal. I mean,
it
that's,
has to be the goal for the town, the fire district, the
Yes.
school, the library,
yes.
things like
Can I have
that.
one more question?
Before I take a second question, I've got someone, first question. Elise?
Hey, real quick, thanks, guys. Would the level of assessment ever go down again?
We do-
Theoretically.
Yeah, it has the potential to if we don't do annual reassessments.
Okay, so what would that be a cause of? What would another pandemic? I mean, what?
No, it would be, I mean, it could be anything, but it could just simply not keeping up with the market values is the real answer.
So
Not
isn't
keeping-
I'm sorry. I just, so isn't it the best practice to just leave it at 100% going forward so we don't have these knee jerks?
Correct, yes.
And as far as I am concerned, my little seashell cottage is now assessed at the correct market value, and I'm not unhappy. But I probably shouldn't say that out loud. But in any event, I would hope that it would just stay this way, and then we go forward and not have to deal with this kind of thing again in the future. Thank you so much for your work. I appreciate it.
I think, what was it, like 2008, we did see a downturn in market values, and therefore the whole assessment, the whole pie shrunk. It didn't necessarily mean people paid lower taxes, it just meant that the pie was smaller, so.
Also 91.
Yeah,
So if the market crashes, assessments can go down.
yes, and they may go
It
down.
doesn't mean your taxes go down.
No,
Does
it
not,
doesn't,
no.
just, yeah,
And
unless it's.
that's the thing.
unless
Just
it's-
because your assessment goes up doesn't mean your tax bill goes up. They're not,
Correct.
they're not the same thing. They're two separate things. Your assessment is your piece of the budget, the spending of the town. That's your piece. That's your assessment. Then you have to apply a rate to that piece according to the size of the budget, and that's what you pay. So, I mean, my assessment went up, but my taxes didn't really go up that much.
Which meant that your assessment kept in line with the entire town-wide increase in assessment.
Yeah, and I'm happy with, I'm okay. I'm not gonna be in your office. I'm fine.
Paul, you had a second question?
Yes,
I see Sandra's got this.
In regards to all the building, the boom,
You should, come up just so that way it gets picked up on mic.
in regard to all the construction and on the island, the brand new total bills, the renovations, the people that you know are, I'm not saying not totally legitimate, putting kitchens, bathrooms, the people are putting thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into this budget. Has that been considered what's coming up next year? I mean, if I remember, when I built mine, I went to full taxes as soon as I got a C of O. So the C of O, that house is done, that's a large income because everything is being built. Yes, so.
So you're saying people who are adding illegal amenities?
No, I'm not saying it.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I'm
you-
saying that there is so much going on, it is almost impossible to keep track. If I could say, if I take 5 minutes to think of all the places I see being built right now, or the extensions that I've seen that have just been completed, it's mind-boggling. So when that happens, just like I'm being taxed because of the amenities I may have put in my house, which I haven't. Those are new tax dollars. Those are new tax dollars, and lots of them. So it's not such a dire thing. I don't want to take a $2,000 haircut. I got nothing to lose. But the tax dollars that are going to come in when these things get their C of Os is tremendous.
If you use the podium, I know.
Just a thought.
Judith can answer
This
that
is a
question.
question.
Yes.
So, for the last couple of years, we weren't able to capture the full value of all of the construction because we were only at 68% or 73%, whatever it was. Now this year, we were finally able to capture some of it. I still haven't finished that yet because I have until May to get that completed. But the new construction is being captured at full value now at this point. So, or will be for the May 1st goal.
And to answer your question a little bit more detail, Paul, I am the treasurer for the fire district. And so every year I look at, okay, here's the increase in spending that the fire commissioners are doing. Generally, they have kept their budgets to 2%, but their tax rate has not gone up 2% every year because new construction and renovations have been added into the assessment so that the denominator has been a bigger figure. So while their budget may have gone up 2%, their tax increase that the taxpayers felt may have only gone up 1%, depending on the given year. So it does definitely factor into it. Sandra, you had another question?
Yeah, I have two more quick ones. Judith, is it also helpful for a property owner to not only have a spreadsheet of all the sales, but to also know all the assessments for the whole all the 3,000 properties? And am I right? If you want that, you need to FOIL it.
Well, last year's assessments are published online. This
okay.
year's preliminary assessments are also published online.
And how would somebody get those?
It's on the assessor's webpage.
Okay.
There's a thing on the sidebar called quick links.
Can I do a screen share, Coco?
Oh, sure.
And you can find the sales there too?
The sales I don't think they're listed there, but I could put them up there.
Yeah, the
I think it
sales are
would
not
be
there.
helpful for people.
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
So if you go to the town website and then click on departments and go to assessor.
Mhm.
We need to use that page. And then if you go further down under related documents, there is the revaluation presentation, which is a handy item for people to look at ahead of time. And then there is the cross-reference report. Is that the correct one, Judith?
Yes, that is it.
And so
Okay.
you do need to know, like it's
The map.
as owner last name, but it also has the code, this
Right.
second column. Like, so if you know that you're 2.7, whatever, you can like go down there and then look at what your neighbors, because the person, or if you know somebody who has a complex house in your neighborhood.
Well, you can also look to see what your comps are being assessed. And you would have the tax number for them because it's on if you ask for your comps, you'll see it. So I have a second question. The property description form that was sent out to everybody, I don't know, October of 2023, is that approximately the right time?
Yeah, it was September of 23, yes.
Okay, so of the 3,000, give or take, at the time, property owners, how many of those came back, do you think?
I want to say it was around 1,500, actually.
Wow.
It was a really good return.
So, okay, so of the 1,500, how many do you think were pointing out to you that information on that sheet was incorrect, and by correcting it, I'm trying to, I guess what I'm saying is, who would respond to that if your information showed 2 bathrooms when they really had 3, or showed no finished basement when they really had a finished basement? Because I'm questioning the accuracy of your data, and that's not your fault. I mean, it is what it is. Because I, like an idiot, responded to it and told you about a missing bathroom and told you about a lot of other missing things. So had I not done that, I would have had a different set of comps.
Yeah, I would say a third, maybe, and that's being generous, gave corrected information.
That would increase their assessed value, probably. Is that what you mean?
Or even decrease it.
Yeah, well,
because
I
they
would
had
imagine
demoed-
anybody, people would have, yes.
Well, I mean, if they had something on their property that they removed and demoed without permit, and I didn't,
Right.
how would I know?
Never happens.
Right,
So-
right. But I maintain, just from looking at my comps and what I can see on the internet, there's a lot of stuff you don't know that's in those houses.
And there's definitely a lot of people who make a purchase and then renovate the house to their needs.
Yes, like
So
finishing
there's-
the basement without telling anybody, yes.
There's
Anyway.
definitely anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not your fault because the building department has to tell you or the owner needs to tell you. Otherwise, you don't know.
Well, you do get the building permits.
We do get the building permits, yes. The building permits, we work pretty well together.
Those do get.
Yeah. If they have a permit, we know about it.
And the other thing about the program that you use, I mean, there's a lot of, I guess, math that goes in there, like higher math, like there's, you put in information and there's linear regression and statistical analysis, things like that, that go in there to do the calculations. So it's not just,
It's not just taking an average.
exactly, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand the background information, but I know you've spent time taking classes and understanding better, yes.
Are any of the businesses questioning anything of their tax rates?
I don't know if I can answer that question.
Okay.
Judith's good. Give her 15 minutes.
I was just about to say, I think we've exhausted all of our questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming in and
Yeah.
talking to us.
Yeah.
I know you've been under a lot of pressure for the past year even, trying to get this project done, as well as been fielding all of this. So,
Thanks for your hard work.
You're welcome.
yeah, and thank you to the rest of the staff.
For sure. You've also got all of them.
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah.
On the agenda, I'm still going to hold off on public comments for a moment because we have another staff member who is here to talk about the community center rental policy and needs to be out of here by a certain day or a certain time because she has to get the kids from the school over to the community center for programming. So one of the things that was circulated to all of you, I hope you have, is the policy on use of the community center. We wanted, Bethany has been asking to get this updated. I think the last time it was updated was 2010, was that correct? And so that this was circulated to you. I did have a couple of comments about some of the things that were in here. And I know that you worked with Steve Leventhal to get this policy updated. So I just wanted to go through it quickly. The couple of comments that I had was number 4, fees for use. It had American Legion, Mitchell Post, $5 fee, program sponsored by not-for-profit organizations, $5 fee, and then use for private events. If it was less than 20 people, $175 per day or event. And then if it was 20 or more, $325 a day. I don't think that the American Legion can be charged a fee because when they gave the property to the town back in 2008, the resolution did state that that they were transferring the Legion Hall to the town while retaining permanent rights and continued Legion use of the Legion area of the building. So I guess if we were going to let them use the upstairs for an event, such as the Memorial Day Parade, I don't think that we should be charging them $5.
But by not charging them, does that cause any other tax or accounting problems? Is there a gift from the town to the Legion? I mean, the $5 could be a de minimis
I was gonna say, I
solution.
mean, this was the resolution back then, and let me just see.
Technically, they gifted the whole building to the town originally, so as part of that agreement.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, I guess that would be, I know we have,
this says the continued rights for the downstairs, the
Yeah.
way I read it. But I'm not trying to cause a problem. I don't
yeah,
want to
no,
charge
no, I mean, I
the Legion
can
$5.
just run that
I'll pay
one.
the $5 for the Legion.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like in keeping with the spirit, if they were going to, do something, which I think, on a, bad weather day, like they have housed the elderly members upstairs prior to the parade, but, do we have any
Well, I
other
mean-
instances where, or did you get into any detail, Bethany, on the Legion when you were talking to, Steve Leventhal?
Yeah, can we ask the accountants this question maybe?
It's actually more of a legal question.
Okay.
No, I didn't, no,
You
I
think
had
you
sent
could
it
follow?
over.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I sent it over last week to Christina to find out, to make sure, because I had said that they should just, and I didn't hear anything.
All right, so this, I'm not, Jeff, I know you're on. I don't know if like you're
Up to speed?
up to speed on all of today's topics and want to weigh in, or if we just bounce this back to Steve when he's available again.
I'll be happy to check with, can everybody hear me? Sure. I'll be happy to check with Steve. The one open question in my mind is if the resolution didn't specifically cover the upstairs, that may be the hitch. But I'll also double check because part of the fee for use, if you will, can also be if there's a public purpose. A public purpose can be deemed as a form of payment. So if the use by the Legion is always going to provide a public purpose, that may be sufficient, but I'll certainly bounce it off Steve since he was working directly on it,
Yeah.
to see if we could just waive that $5 fee altogether.
Okay, and I think that question may already be with him. All right, so, but that would be an open item on this policy. The other one that stuck out at me was on page 2, number 10, rules and regulations, number 2. It does say no alcoholic beverages are permitted inside the building or on Legion Hall grounds. The prior policy from 2010 said except for American Legion events, because there is a bar downstairs. So it's legal and it's, has its liquor license and things like that. So I feel like we should go back to the old language that says except for American Legion events, no alcoholic beverages. But then another thought that came to mind is I believe the 10K.
The 10K has the
had
beer
an
truck
after
outside.
party beer truck. So,
Yeah.
so I feel like there's one violation. It may be the only, well,
Well, we give them an
No,
outdoor
actually-
assembly permit, giving them permission to do that.
yeah.
They're not necessarily renting the space, we're letting them use the outside of the building. So it's probably another Stephen question.
Yeah.
Bump it to him.
Yeah, so maybe like partial wording of that language or with town board authorization.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the rest of you feel about.
Is it rented out very often?
If by the public,
Yeah.
by community organizations, maybe like once a month.
You've been seeing an uptick in requests.
Yes, I think with the library construction going on, that has, people have come to us now for a space. I think once they get their building back, they'll probably go back to using that new area that they're gonna have, but.
It is. He's small.
Yeah,
Revenue
I mean, I've
source.
mentioned it to a few people that have asked to use the space for $5 and they are like, that's fine, just let us know.
Yeah.
So they can go along with their plans.
Yes, yeah.
That's really all. I just like, let's get this done so everyone can schedule their events.
Yeah,
Mhm, yeah.
whatever.
And let me just see. Oh yeah, in number 8, I was going to take out your name. Just reference the recreation director.
Yeah.
Right, like whoever's holding that title. that was all that I had. Oh, wait, number 5. Oh, I thought the, no, 10, rules and regulations, number 5. If the facility is not being used even for one day, it should be the permit will lapse. There's awkward language there that needs fixing. So I'm not sure what the intention was, but
Yeah, I have to look at it.
yeah, you don't have to do it right now. So we've got 3 things on my list. Does anybody else have anything?
Bethany, is this for one event only, or is this permit gonna be issued if somebody wants it every other Wednesday at something like that? Is there a difference? Is there a delineation of?
So it says on there, the fee is if it's a day or if. Exact language.
If it's a
Yeah, that's
day,
what
that
I was just
covers
looking at
me.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if somebody's using it like every Wednesday for like a program, I usually lean them more toward like, let's work with the rec department and like create a program through us, rather than just like running the space, because it gets so expensive to run the space every single time.
Mhm. Yeah, and generally that's what it is. It's rec department activities that are
Yeah.
repeating versus,
Yeah, then there's just like one-off community organizations using it for different
like,
things.
if I wanted to have my daughter's bridal shower there, then I could
Yeah,
sign.
yeah, and that would be that would be a private, not a community event, so that would be the 250, I think.
325
Yeah.
or 175, depending on how many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with it. The 2 things that I had
Mhm.
thought of, you just covered, the no alcohol,
Mhm.
the 10K came to my mind. And then the Legion, because I thought that there was an agreement, but we'll get clarification from Stephen.
Mhm. Yeah. Once we get those, we'd like to adopt this policy at the April 7th town board meeting.
Yes.
Good with that? So with me.
Let's just make this happen.
Yes, I was gonna say, so we'll just circulate it but not put it back on a town board work session agenda unless somebody calls for it.
Sounds good.
Thank you. All right.
And Bethany?
Yeah, I guess if there are any questions on this?
What?
Last town board question?
Totally different subject?
Yeah.
I know I owe you a document, working on it, and it's coming, and
Okay.
we'll make it happen.
Okay, thank you.
So now we'll go back to what we normally open the meeting with, but I didn't need to get staff out the door to get back to their jobs. Was there the public that was in the room has left, is there anyone on Zoom who had a public comment that is not on today's agenda or subject to a public hearing? I guess I could have started with that first then. Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda was added late because I heard from Joe Fenori yesterday. It's the New York State Water Quality Improvement Program, and it's a Fresh Pond grant application. And so Joe and Jen Maziana Higgum have been working on another potential grant for Fresh Pond. So the deadline on it is
31st.
yeah, March 31st. Yes, and actually, it's not a New York State Water Quality Improvement Program. It's a Suffolk County Soil and Water Conservation Grant. So we have in the, I was going to ask for, after we have a discussion, I was going to ask for a special meeting after the work session to do a grant, to approve having a grant application made to this program. It's $50,000. They will make a decision late in April on whether or not we would receive the grant. So it would, if we can keep this program for Fresh Pond moving along, we could get the funding in and be able to utilize it for this year. If the program has to wait, if the pilot program has to wait until next year, the grant would still be available for us then. What it does is we set at the last town board meeting a public hearing to use WQI funds for the $32,500. So we had 260,000 that's coming from the New York State Water Quality Improvement Program monies. We had Fresh Pond Neighbors Association for 32,500, and we were going to WQI for 32,500. If we get this grant, we could not have to utilize the WQI monies, so that we could utilize the state money, the county money, if we get the full 50, and then Fresh Pond Neighbors could make up the remainder, which would be 15,000. So we wouldn't end up having to tap into those funds. I suggest, because we won't know the outcome of this grant application until late April, that we continue with the public hearing to utilize WQI. We don't have to actually go to resolution, like we can have the public hearing and then wait and see what to do once that decision is made on this grant.
Did we apply for this grant in the past and didn't receive it? Is this the one we didn't receive?
I think this
No,
is
this is-
It's just a county, okay,
This
because
is
I
a
knew
new
the other
one,
one was
yeah.
a county grant, all
Yeah,
right.
this is
Something different.
soil and water. We got notification about it like a month or so ago, and Jen Mezziano needed time to investigate whether or not this was an eligible program that could fit under this application. And so she came back, was it yesterday, Joe?
Yes, there were some questions about our eligibility for this that we recently understood to be favorable. So this is just another iron in the fire for us. The project qualifies. It's an opportunity to absorb more costs of the project and relieve the town's WQI request. But as the supervisor said, we should continue on both tracks.
I have no problem applying for the grant. It will only help things if we get it.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
April. It'll be for April, the 30th of the month.
Yeah,
It goes in
approximately.
on Monday.
Yeah,
It has to be in
March
by
31st.
March 31st, and then the county should hopefully be telling people who won the award by the end of April.
Yeah, so I put it on for a special today, last minute, because we have to have, for our own internal policies, we always, before we go for a grant application, our internal policies say that we bring it to the town board so that the town board approves applying for the grant, and also where the other sources of funding will come from if we should receive the grant. Because we don't want to apply for a grant, get it, and then have to say, oh, never mind, we can't utilize that because we don't have the other funding in place. We don't have town board authorization to do this. So we set this policy, but also some of the grant applications do want municipality resolutions saying that we approve of applying for this grant. And so it's twofold in this situation. It's our policy and the county's policy. And then April 30th is when they think they're going to get us a response, but it's not always, like, we think we're going to find out about grants awards, and then things take more time at either the county or the state level. So it's not guaranteed that we'll know by the end of April, but hopefully. Do you know anything more about that in your conversations, Joe?
No, but that's a good generalization. Sometimes it's by the date that they indicated. Often it's not. But in the case of this application, there's really no downside to the town. This could potentially help us. And if we're not awarded it, then we would continue down the path that we're already on with the WQI public hearing. So as you mentioned, there's two reasons why it's before the board. The grant application requires a town board resolution in support of the application for it to be processed. And then also for our own internal policies, we require town board resolution to apply for any grant.
If there's no more questions from the table, is there anyone in the public who has a question about this? Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
And I presume you and Jen will continue to work on this application.
Yes, so long as there's, support by the town board to move forward, then we would have this applied for by the deadline of March 31st.
And we will have that answer for you at the end of the special meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Procurement policy. We had circulated, Shelby had been working on this predominantly, the purchasing policy and procedures. It was previously circulated to the town board, and it also went to our contract accountants. It also went to the auditors. I believe it also went to Steve for legal to take a look at it. And so this draft, March 14th, 2025 is the latest iteration on this. So did anyone have any questions on this or any changes? The only change that I had was on the very last page, and it's not necessarily a change, it's just something that I wanted to discuss. Under VI, so 6.
Oh, yeah, that was the question about should we list the names or just the job titles?
Well, that too, and also authority given to committee chairs
Right.
on being able to sign off. Because historically, committee chairs will, like CPF as an example, sign off on vouchers for spending money for, attorneys. The planning board, signs off on the engineer and the legal counsel there. ZBA, same thing. If there's legal counsel or a consultant that they've hired. Community Housing Board, legal, advertising, things like that. Do we want to list committee chairs? Again, I would rather not put names in, and on all of these, I'd rather keep it position specific. Although the argument that did come back to me on leaving the names in is this is a policy that we have to adopt every year. So we would only.
But then you gotta go back and adjust it.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to do edits every year. Also, if you have a mid-year, change in a department head, then we have to go back and amend it. So
I say delete the names.
Yeah, that was my initial,
yeah.
my initial note was that we don't need to.
Unnecessary.
Yeah.
Committee chairs.
Well, I think that the boards, like the ZBA and planning board, operate a little differently, so we could list those specifically. The committees are all a little different. I mean, we have, like CPF does have their own, like,
Source of
revenue.
funding.
Yeah,
So
their
as
own funding
does-
source, as does WQI
As does Community Housing
and community
Board.
housing. So maybe those boards get listed. But then some of the other ones like CAC, WAC, they have a very nominal, like
Mhm.
$500 is their budget. It's if they're gonna put out a pamphlet and then we usually sign off on it as a town board. It's for informational purposes. I don't know that all the committees need to be listed, maybe just the ones that actually have some form of funding that they pull from.
Or, I mean, it could also put committee chairs and town supervisor. So that there
Yeah, they
is-
need a secondary sign off.
Yeah,
But then you'd have to go and sign off. Well, I guess we do already sign the checks for planning board and zoning board.
yes,
So
Yes.
it's not necessarily something you don't already do.
right. So, thoughts?
Don't you sign all the checks anyhow?
I'm the first signer on all checks. But I also like seeing the purchase orders. And the reason I sign all checks is because department heads do up to certain thresholds have authority to sign purchase orders. Sometimes seeing the check is the first time I'm actually seeing that expenditure. And that's why I want to see why I want to sign all checks and have for the past year and a quarter. So this is before that, so that, like, Public Works, if Ken is spending something, over, $15,000, that automatic, that comes to me, but I don't necessarily see things less than 15,000 until the voucher comes in with the check.
So, right, but the board sign off on the vouchers, but committees don't. They just sign off on the purchase orders.
Mhm.
So,
Which, right now, the way this is written, if you have a, less than $10,000 expenditure, the supervisor doesn't need to see it.
right. But the committee's budgets aren't even that big. They couldn't
This
do
is true.
something like that if they wanted to. I mean, their budgets are all under $1,000 as far as their spending goes for the most part.
Yeah,
So-
non-board committees.
Yeah, non-board committees. So, their expenses.
Mhm. I'm just a slight control freak.
Oh, no, I have no problem. So the thing is, there's
I will
already,
admit that.
there's already-
I don't want to micromanage, but I am
But
the chief
there's
financial officer, so.
yeah, and it could be that the liaisons have to sign off on it. I mean, there's 2 liaisons
Yeah.
for each committee. So
Mhm.
somehow it will get from the committee to the
Yes.
board that the committee's planning on spending money to do
Mhm.
something. And it's typically
Yeah.
education for the public.
Yeah,
So how do we work that in?
I can work on
I would think that the committee should come to the board if they're gonna want to appropriate money for something, to get approval.
They do for
But to have
larger,
that,
yeah.
independence on their own, I don't
Well, I mean.
know if
you
that's
do-
necessarily a good thing.
Well, you do have budgets, like Taylor's Island does have a budget for repairs and maintenance of the building up to $25,000. I'm not sure if that's the exact right number for this year. So they do have, they do need to be able to spend that, and it's been authorized by the town board during budget season that they are allowed to spend that money.
And the liaisons are sitting in those meetings.
Right, yeah, so maybe we word it in such a way that the liaisons to whatever committee has to be the second, signer on purchase orders.
And one thing one is the town board involved in Taylor's Island fixing the building. You want them to
Right.
do their thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we don't want to micromanage everything.
So in the highway, you, as a supervisor, will not, it has to be over 15,000. Isn't that a lot of money to be not without any approval?
No, if you look at, the volume that goes through highway, public works, there is so much that, spending, because they cover all of the town assets. Generally, Ken does shoot more things my way to make sure, I'm good with it, because he knows I'm watching the budget. PD, same thing. Chief knows I'm watching the budget, so he'll send things over my way.
But you can buy basic parts that are gonna be $5,000, but you have to fix the mower, so you have to buy the part. This is so that they can buy parts and materials to fix equipment without having to get every single one of them approved. They have a maintenance budget for a reason. They understand how much it costs to maintain the equipment. So, that would get cumbersome, I think, if every single purchase had to go through supervisor's office.
Yeah, it's a fine balance between watching every penny and not micromanaging.
And it's not like we don't see it anyway, it still comes through.
Yeah, because it's still, yes, two town board members still have to sign the check and.
Right, and see the
On
purchase
to-
order, the voucher.
The abstracts are presented every 3 weeks to the town board. So we do see everything that gets spent.
Yeah.
And then if you also, when you look at the monthly reports that Shelby sends out, you can also look at that and see okay, this line is starting to get ahead of itself, or.
This procurement is done every year?
Yes, it has to be adopted
Every
in.
year.
Mhm. So we've got agreement on delete names, and do we want to just town board liaisons for
committees.
committees?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, we will put this on for adoption April 7th. We'll get the cleaned up version too, Amber. Any questions from the public on this topic? Okay. Next topic is, excuse me, Cornell Cooperative Extension. We have two things going on with Cornell Cooperative Extension. Excuse me. We had a memorandum of understanding between Cornell Cooperative and the town utilizing WQI funds. That was the $200,000 WQI grant that was given for shellfish seeding. I don't remember all the particulars. Kate Rossi Snook was spearheading that on behalf of Cornell. And last year in June, we extended their contract. It originally ran from May 1st, 2023 through July 31st, 2024. And it was extended to terminate on October 31st, 2024. And we had adopted that extension, 4 in favor, 0 opposed. They ended up submitting their final bill. The work ran over a little bit into November, maybe a tiny piece in December, so that when they submitted their bill, it was a December dated bill, and or maybe even later than that. And it got held because it's like, wait, this isn't
The resolution in the cover.
Yeah, this memorandum of understanding has expired. However, they did do the work, so it would be a simple resolution so that they can get paid the remainder. So we would just take this existing resolution and update it one more time.
Was it over the 200,000?
No, it's just up to it. So if everyone is in favor, we can do a resolution on the fly, just so they can get paid for that
Absolutely.
piece. Okay.
I'm in.
Okay, and that was, I passed that resolution from June out to you.
Yeah.
The second piece is, they would like to, let me start first. Every year, we do a shellfish seeding program, and I believe this is what Christina had circulated to you. A memorandum of understanding between the town and Cornell Cooperative Extension. And this is for the, let me get to the meat of it, shellfish, aquaculture, and resource enhancement. And we have been working with them for years. I don't know how far back it goes, but it was a program that was operating when Jim Doherty was supervisor. And they operate a shellfish hatchery and nursery at Cedars Beach Southold Marine Environmental Learning Center in order to produce shellfish for restocking town waters. And they want to, we've done this annually, but then it's kind of fallen through the cracks because we used to have it as a budget item. So it started out as 8,000 when I went back and looked at some of the history. It was up to 10,000 in 2022, and then 12,000 in 2023. It fell through the cracks last year. There was no agreement, but it did start to come out of WQI funds. But in order for us to spend WQI funds, we need to set a public hearing, have a public hearing, and then pass a resolution to utilize WQI funds. So that has happened for a couple of years. Rather than having to do it annually and have this like, oh, right, we like have to do this public hearing thing again, the suggestion that came out of WQI and Cornell Cooperative Extension is, why not have a 5-year program and we just do a set $12,000 for the 5 years? So they already did the work for $12,000. $12,000 worth of work, but we really get.
This is not the reef. The reef is
No, that's
part of that
was-
other part.
That was
Yes.
the other.
And is that continuing in 2025?
The prior MOU?
No, I'm talking about the reef. Is that, so that's done right now?
That's done. Yep, that's done. So we're just extending that MOU to December 31st so that they can get paid for that project. They have not come to us for any similar project or an extension of that project. this is just an extension of the first project to get them paid.
So the reef program is complete.
Yes, yes.
Is it successful or what happened?
We could ask Kate to come in and give us an update. She did come in and do something for WQI, and I thought she did for the town board last year as well. There was a mixed, like the seeding program had mixed results because of what was happening with the water temperatures and the predator.
Parasite.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was a parasite and there was also something
The
nose.
ray, the
Yeah,
hognose ray or something.
it was a hognose, but something
Something.
nose ray. So, yeah, so she did, but we could have her come in and give us a wrap up on that program. They initially said that they were going to try and, with our $200,000 funding, try and leverage that to get fundraising elsewhere so that they wouldn't be coming to the town every year for
This
$200,000.
$12,000, is this the one where all the East End towns participate in?
No, that's the Peconic Estuary. Yeah, that's Pat, and that's Peconic Estuary program, and
And that's something different.
that is different, and it's built into the WQI legislation that all the towns
Right.
contribute to that. So this is a separate ask.
And this is from Cornell. The other one is through a different organization.
Yeah, so it's gonna cost us $12,000 a year. The total annual commercial value of this shellfish seed deployed in Shelter Island Town waters will be up to approximately $25,000. So they do subsidize what it is that they're delivering to restocking our town waters. And it says all shellfish will be delivered by November 30th annually. And CCU will produce and present annual reports of shellfish seeding activity to the WQI Advisory Board.
And in the Peconic Estuary, we give very little there, right? That's like 8,000 or something like that.
Yeah, it's based off of our taxes, kind of. The way to assess it.
They have a
But
way.
it has gone up. It's,
Let me pull up the
Yeah.
spreadsheet.
I know when I look at East Hampton, there were big numbers with East Hampton.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not nearly,
Yeah, and
That big.
it is allocated based upon,
I thought it had gone up to 10 or 12, but.
Yeah.
I can pull up the spreadsheet. I've got something that tracks it.
So they put the seedlings in the water here.
Yes, and if we decide that we will set the public hearing on this, then Kate will come and present at the public hearing.
Another random question, you might not know the answer to this, but the other thing they were doing, they were collecting oyster shells and mussel shells and grinding them up and using them for, that was under the old MOU, or are they still doing that? Maybe that's the question.
But when is this public hearing going to be? For public hearing?
There's two, I was gonna say two questions while I'm researching how much so Pat, in
Where's your
2021.
third arm?
I was gonna say, the 2020, they go in order. 2021, we gave PEP dues of $5,950. 2022, it was $89.25. In 2023, it was $11,900. And I have to ask Shelby, because I think we just got the 2024 bill recently, or I haven't updated the spreadsheet for that payout yet.
That's some WQIP.
Yes, yeah, and that, because it's part of,
Yeah.
the
Iconic estuary, right.
legislation, we don't have to have a public hearing on that, because it's authorized. Okay, so that was the money question. Your question,
Are they still collecting all the shells and
Yes.
grinding them up and using them for whatever they do with that stuff?
yes, so she actually just put new buckets out at Sylvester Manor. So if you're doing part of the composting program, you can also drop off your shells. And what they do is they lay them all out and let them bleach for a year before they use them to do the spat on shell. So what she was doing is taking the shells after they had been seasoned for a year, using them in that tank to attach all the baby oysters to, and then taking them out and building the reef with them. And the reef had been growing pretty significantly. Actually, last time she brought a cluster of oysters from the reef that had been put in the year before, and they were huge. So far it looks successful.
Because I know the yacht club is collecting all the shells and giving them to her.
Yeah, a lot of the restaurants were doing that.
and then Gordon, your question was, when would we set this public hearing? So we would set it at the April 7th and then have the public hearing April 28th. So if everyone is good with that, we will get the. I won't open this up to the public because there will be a public hearing on this. Oh, well, yeah, public hearing on this piece.
So, did we pay for this for 24 yet?
We did not, so we're going to include,
Include
yeah, the
24?
2024. The agreement will
Okay.
commence January 2024. and
So it'll
run
be like a
through
6-year
4, 5,
agreement.
6, 7, 8, yeah, 2028. So count by fingers.
Yeah, I feel like we missed a year in paying
Yes,
for
we
that,
did,
so
and
that's why.
also, they had sent an invoice and it was like, can't pay this either.
Right, because we didn't have the.
Because we
Okay.
don't have an agreement in place. And it had been brought up at the January WQI meeting,
Mhm.
and I guess Albert, both of us dropped the ball on moving this forward to the town board level. Like, we forgot when we gave our reports. Okay, so that is that topic. Where did I put my agenda? Okay. I think next is, we have a waterways application for 21 Tar Kettle Road, Beach Glass Properties, LLC. My notes from the public hearing that we had. I didn't have any notes on stipulations. It was a somewhat straightforward application, if I remember correctly. We were waiting for the Army Corps of Engineer report, which, Amber, did you?
We just got it.
This morning, which I didn't get a chance to.
They basically said it was fine.
Yeah, because I mean, if we were, the only stipulation that I had made a note of is if we had not yet received that report, here we go, that we would make it subject to. But since we have it, it was, yeah, remove an existing 5-foot wide by 15-foot long float as well. Yeah, and I think they were reducing the size and non-conformity.
Yeah, by
Yeah, there was a
pulling out-
reduction in non-conformity,
Yeah.
and it got non-conformity.
Yeah. So I didn't have any stipulations
Neither did I.
to put into the resolution.
Nope.
I thought it was fine.
Okay.
The WMAC had voted to approve. There was one abstention because somebody had a relationship with the owner, but otherwise it was unanimous.
Okay, all right. So we will work on that resolution for the April 7th board meeting. So we are on to board member reports.
I had no committee meetings last week.
We just have to look at the calendar because we also didn't go over reports last week, and so I feel like I'm missing something.
Most of my committees are summer committees.
Let's see. Yeah, the community housing board met on the 13th. Those notes are inside. Yeah, EMS advisory met last week. WAC met last week, and West Neck Water met last week. One of the things, and I left my notes inside, West Neck Water did ask that we give permission to Steve Leventhal to look at the legalities and work with Suffolk County Water Authority to understand what would it take to expand the footprint of the district in order to, there's 3 homeowners who currently wish to get into the district. So there's there's like 3 different paths that he just needs to be tasked with looking at. 1, we do nothing, and it's the homeowner's problem to figure out how they're going to get potable water. 2, we expand the West Neck Water District, and so we need to understand what the steps are to do that, what the timeline is to do that. Like, we have to, the DEC, like, is it a notification? Is it a permission?
Is
So-
there any collateral implications?
Yeah, it's just like what it would take, and then we could build, like what it would, like then they have to tie in. I think in 2 of the instances, I think that the main goes right past their homes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we don't have to do any main extension. Another one, I think there is main extension issues that would have to be worked out. So those are the considerations. The other is if they just go directly to Suffolk County Water Authority and ask them to provide them with water, in which case Suffolk County Water Authority would then have to come back to us because our operating agreement says we can't, water can't go out of our district without our permission. So then how would that look? Excuse me. So they just asked that, like, since it's taking us longer to find a town attorney than we wanted it to, that we have Steve look at this.
Yeah, I got confused. I listened to the meeting, okay, and I got confused over the maps. I don't know which map is the one. Apparently there were multiple maps, and from what I gather, the map that was listed on their webpage is not the correct one.
Yeah, we need to have that investigated, because I thought it was the correct map.
Yes.
I don't know, all I heard, okay, and then the other thing is I was not aware that there had been expansion. That was the other part that I sort of, I didn't know there were multiple expansions on it.
But wasn't
I thought there was something where there couldn't be expansion, so I don't know, was not involved with it, okay, but
I went to the meeting. Joe had indicated that the West Neck Water can expand without town approval. At the meeting, he said that. I was surprised at that.
I did not,
I don't know how
I did not hear that.
how the town engineer came up with that, frankly.
I don't know that I ever said that there was no town board approval required. I just indicated that historically, the system has expanded. They've added new customers over the course, of its existence. None in recent memory, but the district boundaries have been changed over the years. And Lisa Shaw had indicated that they had added new customers, in recent decades.
But Joe, did they add those new customers under Suffolk County Water Authority, or was it before their tenure?
Before their tenure.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Now, when we made our partnership with Suffolk County Water Authority, wasn't that the last time we rearranged the boundaries because we included Crescent Beach, which hadn't, the Crescent Beach bathroom, which hadn't previously been part of the district?
Yes, and going through the exercise of the Suffolk Water contract, we understood that there were inaccuracies in the district boundaries as they were recorded. There were customers that were included in the system currently receiving water that were not represented on the district boundary map. The town became a new customer with the extension of water service to the Crescent Beach bathroom. And so at the time that the contract was executed, there was a correction of the district boundaries to make sure that when we executed the contract, the boundary map that was associated with the contract was accurate. And that is the map that's on the West Neck Water webpage right now.
Right.
so that's, Joe, that's the most up-to-date map?
That's the only map on the website that I'm aware of. I heard the same complaint or request that we review that, and I checked the town website. I was only able to find the one map that's shown as a link to the West Neck Water committee page. I didn't see it anywhere else, but I don't make the website. I'm not familiar with if there's like another tab someplace where we keep pending documents, but there's only one map on the West Neck Water page.
How many times did the West Neck Water District expand?
That I don't know.
I mean, since Suffolk County has taken over the management.
None.
Oh, none.
Okay, other than Crescent Beach.
That was done.
That was done for.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
just prior to taking over. Yeah.
Okay, so we guess that what the misleading part was, when I listened to someone in the audience talk about it, he was unaware that it had been expanded, but he didn't know that it was never expanded when Suffolk County Water took over the management. That makes a big difference. He was working under the basis that there's been this expansion all along, but there really hasn't been since Suffolk County came along.
Correct.
Yeah, the last time we expanded was to include the Crescent Beach bathhouse in, we did that at the same time as we turned it over to Suffolk County Water Authority. But it hasn't changed since.
But the resident that was talking about this, he was under the impression that this had expanded. Okay, so you'll see my lawyer, and that's not really correct, because we had not expanded under Suffolk County Water.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I took out away from it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because somebody says.
So the reason,
Make it correct.
So, I mean, I would love to have the lawyer look at this, because what I'm worried about is if we let it expand, are there any triggers there? Does it convey any additional rights to Suffolk County Water? I don't know. I haven't read the document in over a year. And I do remember something in there giving them additional rights as if it expands, but we need to have the lawyer look at this.
Yeah, and that's why I think we need to start with the lawyer, like, we should understand what it is, like, what's in here, what are the options, so that we can make an informed decision to say, sorry, you're on your own, we're gonna do it this way, or we're gonna do it that way.
but the Westland Water is not completely done yet, right? Is that correct?
What,
It's not completely done, that project. There are pieces that are missing still.
the upgrades?
That's what I was led to, I mean, I'm just listening to it secondhand, okay? It seemed like some of the things were still working out with Blue Wells.
They've been rolling it out over time. I mean, they did the main is done.
Yeah, so Joe,
They've done the well.
you were there Friday, Joe. Yeah, I think that they have to take original wells 6 and 7, if I got the numbers right, offline, because we have 6A and 7A now. So I think taking those offline is like one last piece of the project. And was there 1 or 2 other things, Joe? I feel like we're getting to the end.
Yes, yeah, this is like the punch list phase of the project. A few electrical connections that have to be finalized, the generators the backup generators installed, but the transfer switch is not in. So little things like that, but anything that involved the distribution system, the replacement of the water mains, that is done. All of the road paving, restoration, that was done. All of the new meter installations, that was done. All of the new wells, that is done. So we're 90+% done, and there's really nothing else that's aesthetic that people would see that is being done. There's no more road removal or trenching. All of that large work is completed.
In the filtering system that they referred to, because I just watched it this morning, okay? Suffolk County has agreed to put that carbon filter in, the carbon activated filter system in for the PFAS, is that correct?
That's what they indicated in the last meeting, yes. So
Yes.
we're not over the current MCL at any of our wells, but in anticipation of a lowering of the MCL, they're scheduling and planning for a new filtration system at their expense to be added to the system.
So if I'm just thinking hypothetically, if you were to expand it, wouldn't we want to put pressure on Suffolk County to make sure that filtering system is in place before we expand it?
I don't know why that's necessary either.
Well, nothing is necessary, but I'm just saying to you,
Suffolk County Water Authority wants to if someone needs water, their mission is to make sure people get the water, but they're under no obligation to expand the district. They're not the ones asking for it. We have 3 residences asking for it. So they're is a negotiating tool to get them to do something. We're going to give you 3 more customers, spend, $100,000, hundreds of thousands of dollars tomorrow. There's no leverage there. Just to look at this realistically.
well, also that $500,000 grant was talked about yesterday again, where they haven't really applied for it yet.
They have to finish the
Finish the project, so
And the PFAS piece is not part of that.
I understand that. but the 500,000 is part of the completion of the project.
Yes, yes.
And they won't, so it's not complete because they can't apply for the 500,000.
So we want,
I'm just talking out loud.
Yeah, we want that.
Do we want this to be complete so that the 500,000 is coming to the people who are really living, who really
Yes.
paid for this?
yeah. Yes.
Before we even talk about expansion?
I don't think that the two things are connected.
Yeah.
I mean, they can continue finishing the project while also hooking people into the main if they need it.
I'll just,
But
the two important points I think
Yeah.
maybe sometimes get lost in translation. The first is that the people who are asking to connect are people who live within the service area now. So there are properties where the main is in the street in front of their house, but they're not connected to it. So they're not actually in the district because they don't receive water, but there's no change in the infrastructure that's needed to service them. They don't need to extend or create new main to connect to this particular property. And the second important part is that when we talk about the phrase expanding the district is owned by the town. So when we talk about expanding the boundaries, that's actually a level of protection because it's expanding our infrastructure. In this particular case, it's unique because these parcels are already, there's main across the street or there's main at the house next to them. So this is not an example where we need to extend, we need to add 1,000 feet of water main or something like that. These are people who are already operating sort of in the footprint. And by expanding the district, they would become new town customers, so to speak, if that makes sense. That's the move that
But
protects the town.
they're not in the boundaries though of the map.
Not presently. No, that's
Correct.
the issue,
That's
is that
what
they're not
that's
in the
exactly
boundary
right.
map, but they are within the service territory. For instance, the pipe goes past their property, but they're not in the system.
They were
makes
never,
sense.
they were never identified as being in the West Neck Water District.
Correct. They were never in the water district. Their property is not included in the district.
And there was somebody yesterday that had 3 parcels. So are there 3 off the main? There would, for 3 parcels or subdivision, there would be 3 lines that would have to go down to those properties. Is that correct?
That particular one, I can't answer because I don't know how the subdivision is being laid out. But the structures, the dwellings in that lot now extend to West Neck Road, which is where the service line goes. So until I could see where the subdivision is laid out, I couldn't answer whether they would receive it on Menantic or on West Neck Road. So I don't have enough details to answer that question.
And with respect to the 500,000 goes to Suffolk County Water Authority, and it will reduce the annual surcharge that the town pays to, well, the town, but gets passed through to West Neck Water customers. So it will reduce that. So the amount of money right now, the way the rates are structured, we have it set up initially so that there was reserve money that had been set aside for infrastructure improvements. So the first year, $27,000, there was a shortfall between what the West Neck Water customers were billed and what Suffolk County Water Authority charged, plus the surcharge. It was $27,000 short. So that money was paid for out of reserve. So once the 500,000 kicks in, it will reduce the surcharge. The question that the West Neck Water Board will have to evaluate, and they will evaluate it first because they're representing the customers in that district, that will then come to the town board to approve changing the rates. Or will be like, do we keep the West Neck Water rates the same and take more time to draw down on the reserve? Or do the West Neck Water customers get a break in rates and we keep the end date of that reserve the same, and then once the reserve money's run out, then they have to get a jump in rates to cover. So
And the 500,000 is not like they're getting it up front, they're getting it at the tail end, as I remember you saying, that 500,000 it's at the back end of the note.
No, my understanding is, so currently the surcharge is about $92,000 a year. It will go down to like $62,000 a year. So it's over the life of the note. So it will still be a 30-year note or 25.
What was interesting, just as an observation, was the leaks. That really caught my attention, at least at that meeting. I thought at the last meeting, I guess in December, I always remember them saying, we have this great system where the customer, we have the ability of notifying a customer if there is a leak. Okay, I was under the impression that that was Suffolk County, but when I listened to it, they can still have leaks but not be aware of it unless they're tuning into that software package.
Right, because Suffolk County Water Authority had replaced a lot of the mains.
Right.
So the mains are new, but customers haven't
From the house.
updated from the main to their house.
I'm sure there's a lot of that.
Yeah. So that is owned by and on the onus of the customers to pay attention. But yeah, hopefully the software will become more widely used so that customers can know sooner that they've got a leak.
So really, what is it the board has to do? I'm a little confused as what's holding it up. Is it the board's decision of whether to expand or not?
Yeah, I was under the impression that we wanted more information. However, we were waiting for a new town attorney to come on rather than pay an interim town attorney to spend the time on this. But since it's taking longer, and there are customers or potential customers who are like, I need to know whether or not I have to spend this much money in order to figure out how to get potable water, or will I be taking that same sum of money probably to put in piping to get me to the main? So they just need to know what direction they're going to go in. And it's, at some point they will just, if we drag our heels too long, then
I think
they'll
this,
just go ahead and have to fend for themselves.
as I expressed at the meeting, I think this requires much more investigation and understanding. Definitely does. The ramifications of the expansion of Suffolk County Water, they're within the boundaries of the West Neck Water District. If they expand, what kind of controls do we have over them to expand? I don't know. I don't think any of us have the answer to that question.
Wouldn't that be on us?
What?
Wouldn't that be on us or whatever town board is in?
I would
place?
want to understand, I would think you'd want to understand the ramifications of any expansion.
Well, that's why we want to understand it, start with the legal and,
Well, there's a lot, I think a lot more
Regulatory.
people should be involved in that decision than just the town board. I think frankly, that's a huge
Wasn't that
decision.
determined when they first,
I mean-
that West Neck Water District? I'm sure all those questions came up at that time. What was the resolvement at that time? Were you on the board at that time?
No,
No, you weren't.
So it's the West Neck Water District. The district itself is owned by the town. We have Suffolk County Water Authority hired to manage it, right? That's the agreement we have. So the question is, does the town want to expand the West Neck Water District to incorporate more customers while keeping West Neck Suffolk County Water Authority on as the managers of that district? I mean, I think that's the question, is does the town want to expand West Neck Water District? Not, do we want to let Suffolk County Water Authority expand island-wide? It's the town's water district.
Well, it's
Do
a
we
start.
want to allow it to expand? That's the question. Do we want to allow it to incorporate new customers? Now, Suffolk County Water Authority has their own doctrine from the state that technically says anything outside of the West Neck Water District is de facto the district of Suffolk County Water Authority. So by saying we're choosing to expand the West Neck Water District, that also means that we're choosing to keep Suffolk County Water Authority within those boundaries. So
to keep control.
to keep control.
We keep control.
So,
control.
because that's our district. So if we choose to incorporate these 3 new customers, then we're keeping the boundaries there, but we're also keeping Suffolk County within those boundaries. So, we could choose to not do that and then see what comes of it. But I feel like that makes the most sense because now the new customers are part of the West Neck Water District. They get charged accordingly. It's all part of our jurisdiction. So I guess,
How do you, I gotta have to ask you, May, how do you know that if Suffolk County expands out of the district, that they have an agreement to manage, that they have to stay, they can't expand? How do you know that? I don't know that.
no,
Does
I'm not
anybody know
saying
that?
that. I'm not
We
saying that.
We own the assets. I think I had brought up what the district looks like, but I'll drop this for the moment.
Right.
Like right now, they can't, on the agreement, they can't do anything, like, we have control because we own the assets. But if Montclair Colony says, we want water, and they go to Suffolk County Water Authority, we don't have any say in that unless they come to the town and say, we would like to drop a well on a town property, then we would have to grant them permission. But if they could find a private homeowner who's willing to drop a well, then we may have no say other than road opening permits to put piping down or something like
But they'd
that.
still have.
40% of the owners, the
Have to get a-
homeowners.
Have to get a DEC permit
Yeah.
to do that, okay, and again,
Yeah, I mean, it's very complicated, but where we're sitting today, we don't know any of the legal and regulatory hurdles that would take place. And that's what we should start to find out is what does it look like? So that we understand, like, you're concerned, so what are your concerns? So like, let me bring up the share again, that if we,
sounds like, Meg, you have a pretty good handle on this because what you're saying is that Suffolk County basically really doesn't need us if enough people come along. So we knowingly sign a contract with them on West Neck Water, knowing they could do this?
no,
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's not what I.
Wait, but that's what we did.
no,
No.
but they can't do anything without West Neck Water without our approval.
I'm not talking about West Neck Water. I'm talking about they can get their own well. That's what they
Correct,
can buy a
that's
piece
what
of property.
That's what the
So-
state
so
legislation.
That was the result of having them handle having Suffolk County? No,
No,
No.
this
they
is
could have done that anytime they wanted to.
anytime, anywhere.
Okay,
This
so-
is before they were in Deering Harbor, before they were in West Neck. That's been.
This can
their
happen at
state
any
mandate.
given time.
Right, because we don't have an
People feel
island-wide water
together.
district.
What we could do if we wanted to protect ourselves, we could create either an entire island-wide water district so that they can't come in, or if we have sensitive areas, we create a Montclair Colony West Water District so that they have to go through us. Right now, they don't have to go through us.
Right.
So if you want to control Suffolk County Water Authority, because the state overriding legislation says they can go in anywhere that they've got a request for people and they can make it financially viable for them.
Where a district doesn't already exist.
Yes. Yeah, if a district doesn't exist, they're part of Suffolk County Water Authority.
Okay, sometimes we have hired outside, when we did certain things, like when we were discussing this very issue of infrastructure in the center, I think we spent like about $5,000 or $9,000 with a consulting firm to clarify that Suffolk County, they went to Suffolk County Health Department, and then they came back with the idea that they couldn't use the TDRs without having infrastructure. Okay, I don't know whether this is that complicated that maybe this is worthwhile to spend something on it. I don't remember saying not to pursue anything. Like, why don't we do something like that?
I just want to understand all the ramifications of it. That's all.
I thought all these
Myself,
ramifications were
it's-
taken care of when they
doing due
created West Neck
diligence.
Water District.
Okay, and so what you want to study is if Suffolk County Water Authority expands beyond West Neck Water District, what are the possible consequences of that? Because the question before us is, do we as a town want to expand our current water district to include more customers?
And how many?
That's the question.
And how many?
Right, well, right now the request is 3. Do we want to allow 3 new customers in the West Neck Water District? That's the question being asked, not do we want Suffolk County Water Authority to expand beyond West Neck Water
That's the
District?
only question, because to expand our water district, doesn't the water still have to come from and through Suffolk County
But
Water
it's in
Authority?
the same district. We're just creating a boundary that now incorporates 3 new
Yeah, let me-
users
I
of
keep
West Neck
changing the
Water
boundary.
District
Yeah.
under
let me
the
bring up
same
this.
contract that we currently have with Suffolk County Water Authority to manage that district that we control and create and shape.
So on the
As long as there's
screen,
no collateral,
yeah, so here, on the screen,
Right.
just to bring it down to a granular level. So within this red area, these are the houses that are within West Neck Water District.
Mhm.
There is somebody, I don't know which of these houses,
Right.
probably best not to
point to it.
pinpoint. So in one of these 3 houses, the cursor's kind of moving in that area, that wants to tap into it. This dotted line
Mhm.
is the main running down the street, because there's also a small piece of properties that are in West Neck Water District over here. So so if we were to expand the district, we would then just say it's this house. We would draw a little red line encompassing this property and add them to the district. I
And then they'd
don't,
be paying the same water rates as all the other people in the district.
Like in
And
general.
what about this guy here?
He's not asking to join the
I
district.
know he's not, but he has the ability if he wanted to.
but that's a bigger ask, because right now, this person, the main runs right past their house. If this person, lot 25 there, wants to tap in, then we have to pay for main to start to go down high-low.
The customer would.
Well, that's something that would have to be investigated, because it would be town infrastructure if it's the main. They typically only pay for, from the main to their house. So that's a bigger, harder question, because how much is that gonna cost? Do we want to incorporate
Well, I think the
that?
other thing is, just looking at it, it's like large houses. Do you create a precedent by allowing 3 people to tap in who are along it, and there's nothing to prevent any other person from doing that as well? Isn't that correct?
So
Look, we-
if
You gotta get
you,
away from the fact that there are 3 people that need water. It's okay. What are the details? The devil's in the details. It's never as simple as people explain it. That resident who spoke on Friday, who wants water, I feel for them, but it's not that simple. So we need to just get a full read of the situation before we can make this decision.
Yeah, even just looking at this map, so we have, if it's not just the 3 people, but then also if you want to think about the consequences, okay, across the street from this main, that's a potential where people could ask to tap in. Across the street on Stearns Point Road, there's, 4 properties here.
Correct.
There's a section on West Neck Road across the street where people aren't. These people are, this person is, but in between. So those would be the easier considerations. There is no main expansion that's needed. So there's your population of what's easy. So just look at, where the main goes and who could tap in potentially that's not part of the district. So what am I counting? I'm counting 8, 14 properties. So
Do the people who, I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm asking so many questions, because it's like not that up to date, but do the people who are looking to get connected, do they have a real cost of what it's going to cost them to connect to the water district?
Well, it's not our problem, it's their problem.
Yeah, but I mean.
No, but actually, that's part of the discussion that I'm saying, let's get Steve to look at the legalities and the regulatory, what it would take. And then Suffolk County Water Authority can come back and say, this is what it would cost for you to tap in. But we haven't even let these people go to that level yet to understand what their cost could be. They may hear it and say, oh, never mind, I've got a different plan. But we're not even giving them information to work with.
Yeah.
And that's what the request is.
Another small question for Joe Fenor. If you were just there a minute ago, you still with us?
Yeah, he is.
In this meeting on Friday, there was a question about a generator, a West Neck Water generator that was built in a setback, and can it be used, can it not be used? Can you just explain that to me?
Yeah, I spoke to Reed, Karen, about this issue. I was surprised to hear about this particular complaint. A generator was installed. It was a replacement to a generator that we had. We put in a bigger generator for more power, but there's no setback issue based on the property line and the zone. So I worked with Reed to make sure we have the right permitting process in hand. But as far as I'm aware, there's no setback or variance issues. So I'm not sure where that complaint came from specifically.
Okay, thank you.
We have two people in the Zoom audience who have questions or comments. Are we done with around the table stuff? Okay. Lori, you had your hand up first.
Hi, good afternoon. So I do have a couple of comments. There are some discrepancies in some of the things that were said in the discussion. First, I want to talk about the map. The map that's on the town website is different than the map that Joe Picorni has shown in several meetings, including the one on December when you all were talking about adding customers. It also doesn't match the DEC permit map. And it also doesn't match the map on the agreement, which was an addendum. So even if you added the wells that were on the golf course, that little piece there, and even if you added the sunset or the beach bathrooms, that little parcel down there where you put the public bathrooms. So there are map discrepancies, especially the one that you just showed on the screen. So I think you need to look into that because there are definitely issues with those maps. I'm intimately familiar with them.
Okay, so that's four different maps then that we need to reconcile?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, just we will task somebody with that.
So, and as I said, if you rewatch the December West Neck Water meeting, Joe Picorni pulls up from Suffolk County Water Authority, pulls up a map on that, and it's not matching the one you have on the website. So anyway, it's really easy to reconcile because you have a list of the existing customers because the town used to bill those customers. All you got to do is match those addresses with the tax map numbers. And there's your existing map. Add the piece on the golf course where the wells are and add the piece where the public bathrooms are. There's your existing map. So anyway, just letting you know that. The second thing is, according to Joe Picorni, and I'm only repeating what he said, which is all on the videos if you watch those, some of those new customers, yes, the main may run close to them or in front of their properties, but it's either on the other side of the street. So there is going to be a cost to run the main either shoot the main under the street or cut across the street with a blacktop patch. And one of them, he goes into quite a lengthy discussion in the December meeting regarding extending that main and the requirement of extending that main for one of those customers that's asking for service. So when Joe Fenora just said that there were no new customers that would be required, that's not exactly correct. So, and you can watch the conversation that Joe Picorni said that it was required. The next thing I have a question on is, the new wells. It was said in the last meeting that the new wells are only running at approximately 50% capacity. So that is great. We're happy that the new wells are up and running. But we haven't been through a summer yet where all the customers are in-house or back on the island. And we haven't had the opportunity to see how those wells are going to work at 100%. So my only question to you is, if it were me, I'd be looking for an evaluation or a hydraulic model in terms of is there going to be any negative impact on the existing customers for pressure and capacity if you're proposing to add new customers. There seems to be some discrepancy about how many customers, because every time you go to a West Neck Water meeting, it's maybe 2 or 3 or 4, or maybe it's 5. We're not really sure how many customers. So I think that has to be, looked at. And I do think people need to understand the cost. Because, you've got the infrastructure cost. If the main has to be extended, then they have the cost to get the lateral from the main to their property, as well as whatever the charges are. And presumably they'll be paying different rates than the existing customers. Because we've already been paying for, some of us, 20 or 30 years for the not only existing infrastructure, but the upgrades. We've been paying for that for almost 3 years. So, and the last thing I want to say is the GAC filter. I'm very happy to hear that Suffolk County Water Authority has agreed to put that in to help with mitigate the PFOs. But I'm also, as I said the last time I spoke before you, the urgency on the getting that GAC filter in sooner rather than later, because the EPA says that no level of detection of PFAs or PFOs are good for your health. And the sooner we get that in, the better. So if there's any way that the board could encourage Suffolk County Water Authority to get that in as fast as possible, I think that would be helpful and put everybody's mind to rest. And I also think the board should be looking at filters. Suffolk County Water Authority does not filter for nitrates. We've had various levels of nitrates, some of them quite high. The February Suffolk County Health Department nitrate report I got from the health department itself, when they came out and did their own testing, was level 8. Now I see it varies throughout the year, depending on when the samples are taken. But I think that's something that the town should be looking at if filters, or whether they are a system filter or individual under the sink filters for nitrates, should be looked at for the West Neck Water customers if we're having issues with nitrates. So, because that's not a really good thing either, especially when as I've heard the WAC say multiple times, over an actionable level. So the last thing, I'm sorry, there is one more thing, is the discussion over the last couple of meetings talked about the chemicals and fertilizers and applications that were applied to the golf course. I have foiled for that. I've not received anything. The town clerk says she was unable, that there was no information, but that's very concerning to me. I appealed that to you, Amber. I haven't heard back from you.
We just got it on Friday. I forwarded it to Amber. It came in after hours on Friday. So it did get forwarded to Amber, and it's been forwarded on to Suffolk County Water Authority as well. Joe is looking at it. So we do now have that in-house.
I will send it right now.
Great, because I sent away some of my own water for sampling and found detections of pesticides and herbicides, and in addition to the PFOs and nitrates in my water. And yes, they were under the regulatory rates, but I really don't want to be drinking that stuff. So whatever the rate, whatever the level is. So anyway, that's something I think that we need to be looking at as well. Thank you.
Yeah, so Amber will be able to fulfill that FOIL request, and Suffolk County Water Authority is going to go through their water testing results and cross-match them to what is being put on the golf course.
Thank you.
Actually, there's a lot of things that we really have to do internally.
Yes.
I'm just listening to the things, the maps, the modeling for hydrologist. What's the cost of some of these things? The GAC, the nitrated levels, and the golf course fertilizers. This is all stuff that really,
When you say hydrology modeling,
somebody just used, I think it was, Lori just used it that because you're not in the summer months, it's running at 50%. Okay, and what happens when we get into the summer? I guess the concern is how much you're going to be drawing.
yeah, and Suffolk County Water Authority does have hydrologists on staff, so I mean, that's why we need to start the conversation.
But all of this, they can, some of this stuff we can start on, we can,
Yeah, I mean, but we need to have the conversation with them, like, some of this, yes, like, they're already looking at the pesticides that are being applied. They will be working on, going from 50% higher. But if we were going to add 3 more customers, then they would pull in somebody, to say like, okay, can the system handle 3 more customers? So we need to start, and some of the dialogue's already started, but in order to answer the question for these 3 people, we just need authority to, like, Joe and Steve talk to Suffolk County Water Authority and start to pull together the information we need to make a decision on the one. The other is proceeding along according to the tasks that Suffolk County Water Authority already has on their list.
okay.
But before they put the wells in, they did modeling to make sure that the wells would be effective. If they weren't going to put wells in that wouldn't be able to work at full capacity to serve the customers,
Which is why they
Would
put
not.
in a second well.
But haven't they had some issues with some of these new wells that are in there? One of them has high nitrates unbeknownst or something.
I don't know that was a new well. I thought that was one of the old wells was having that.
There were 2 new wells drawn, and then one had nitrate, and then the other one 5 feet away didn't have it. Okay.
One was had elevated PFAS.
PFAS, they made
Yeah,
it.
I was gonna say, I don't remember nitrates.
I mean, this is really somewhat, this lends itself somewhat to the WAC meeting, okay, of responsibilities of water, okay, and if we have a public water system, we have an obligation to make sure that that water is good.
And it is currently meeting all of the standards.
I understand that.
People may not like that the standards are not
what
low
they
enough
are.
yet.
I know, but there's a perception, okay, that when we have public water, that it's of a better quality, okay, than a regular well, your own residential well. I mean, that's what really comes out of WAC, we believe in public water, and I'm an advocate for public water, and everybody's thinking, well, you're gonna get a better quality water, and I really do believe, like Chapman does, that if we do have a public water system, we really have the responsibility of making sure that that water is of good quality.
Safe, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you define safe?
I mean, we're complaining one way, if we complain one way with regular well water, they have PFAS, you gotta be concerned about the PFAS, but here we're talking about,
But you have to keep in mind that the reason that the district exists in the first place is because people could not draw water from wells on their property because of the soil content. There's
Correct.
too much mica. So if the district didn't exist, people would not have water here. So the fact that the district exists it's purely because they couldn't draw water. So the water that they're getting is the equivalent of it's actually better than what they couldn't draw from their wells.
because they couldn't get the water.
Exactly. So
Right, but
what they're
It is
asking
better
for is
water.
water better than the standard set by New York State. And so everybody would love to have pure, perfect water, but it doesn't, there's no saying that if they could draw water from their own well on their property, that it would be any better or worse than what they're getting from Suffolk County Water Authority, because they can't draw
there's
water.
nothing that says it's gonna be any better, correct?
Right. So, as long as the water is meeting all the regulatory standards for potability, then the district is doing its job. I don't understand what.
Well, when you say better water compared to.
Well, I'm thinking,
Somebody
I
living
think Chapman said it best, okay, when he said, with the responsibility, I think when you're providing water to your residents, okay, and it's a public water system, I think you have the obligation to make sure it's below those MCL levels, but I think there's a perception that if we give you water, public water, everything's cool, everything's taken care of, okay? It may not be, it may be of the same quality of your regular well water.
Except in these instances, it's definitely better than the well water because that's why they're on the system to begin with.
Yeah, because they couldn't draw it.
That's why you have people asking to be incorporated into the district, because their own water is either not potable from their private well, or they're having trouble getting water in their private well, which is why they're asking to be part of the district. Because the district has better water than they do. I mean, so
There is the part to that as well, that one of the people that wants to be a part of the district, as they explain their water levels right, their limiting levels are right there. But the county health department, because they want to subdivide, the county health department is mandated that they have to tie in to Suffolk County Water Authority. And even Jason Hine, as we know, with the health department, they won't let somebody drill a new well on their property if there's a problem. They have to tie in to Suffolk County Water if it's available, if they're within a certain distance of their home.
So we better find out legally what
it is.
what our responsibility is then.
Amber, I went to this meeting Friday because it was on the agenda, the expansion, the request. And I was concerned because a previous meeting that I was at, this was also discussed. And Joe Picorni, I don't know what his title is, he's an executive of Suffolk County Water Authority. He said, I'm going to check with my legal department. And then Amber, you and Lisa Shaw and I will take this offline. That was very concerning to me, frankly.
Because I don't think it's a discussion that can be had at a West Neck Water Board meeting. We don't have a town attorney who attends those meetings to be able to weigh into those discussions. The town attorney also needs time to research that information. So it's not a discussion that can be held at the board meeting. Yes, the results of that conversation will go back to West Neck Water District Board, and then will also end up coming to the town board. So it's not like I was trying to hide anything. I was just trying to
No, I
take
know.
it to a
This,
level where you
what
can actually get
what I
something
said
done.
was, this was Joe Picorni's speaking. He was speaking. He said that, not you.
Yeah, no, but he also.
I was
realized
just
he
concerned
was-
when I heard that. That sounded like backroom dealing to me.
It's not,
Potentially.
it's just, it's in order to.
I don't
get
know. I don't know
answers to-
that.
In order to get answers to questions, we need the people who can take that information and figure out what can be done and then bring it back. So it's like making sure that the information and the authority, like, we want the place where the information comes from is in one silo, which is the lawyers and the engineers and the hydrologists and whoever. Then it comes back to the decision makers to say, okay, these are our options, and go in either direction. I was not trying to hide anything from the public.
I wasn't
We just didn't have
insinuating that. I said, again, Joe, that was Joe Picorni that was talking. Now, Suffolk County Water Authority wants to run water. Their whole mission is to supply water to people. That's what they do. So checking with his legal department and his hydrologist or whatever it is, they have one thing in mind, is to supply water. Get bigger, supply water. That's what they want to do.
Ask for it. They're not trying to force it down people's throat. It's to people who
I
ask
know.
for it.
I just want a counter argument to that. I want to understand the
Which is why we
ramifications of
need
it. That's
our-
all.
We need our town attorney to represent the town's interests and to understand and know what's being said. That's the counterbalance.
But we don't need our attorney to find the right map. We don't need our attorney to determine what it would cost for these three people to hook up to Suffolk County Water. They should have that information. We don't need an attorney to talk about the GAC filter. We don't need to talk about, we don't need to talk about where the fertilizer's coming off the golf course. I think a lot of those things can be done before we even get into a conversation with the,
The question before us is, these three property owners are asking, are you going to make a decision about the district, or are we just on our own? And the longer we just don't address it, we're just forcing them to go in one direction, which, like, inaction is a decision. And if that's the decision that we want to make, is continue with inaction, then we can just go back to those three property owners and say, you're on your own. We're not picking this up.
Well, I think an honest answer
Just
that
make
we.
sure it's a decision you want to make. Like,
I'm just saying, one of the answers that we could have given them is to find, how long does it take to get a DEC permit? A year? I don't know, engineering to go along with that permit application. We can't expand the district until we have the permit in hand. That's a simple message to
Let's
them.
authorize the people to embed, to have the conversation and come back to us with those answers. Right now, we're operating in a vacuum and on assumptions. All I'm asking for is, do we want to like put the people together who will give us the answers to these questions?
Yes, please.
Otherwise, we're just sitting here talking and we know nothing. Like, I know nothing, like.
Well, you can,
I think we know how long it would take to get a DEC permit. I think it would take at least a year.
Not necessarily, because Suffolk County Water Authority has a relationship with the DEC, and they do this quite frequently. When we got it redistricted before we signed the contract, it did not take a year to get that done. It took maybe, 4 months? I don't know, Joe might
Okay,
remember
all right,
better than
I
I
don't
do.
know that.
But it doesn't take that long to redraw the boundary. But what we need to discuss is whether or not we're willing to incorporate new users to the West Neck Water District. That's the request. But we need to know what are the impacts of that.
Right.
That's what we're asking.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we need to
move it on.
We need to move
Things.
along because we've got legal counsel coming on to give us a briefing, and we have, a special meeting to do.
Stella's had her hand up.
And I was gonna say, we've got Stella with her hand up and Jeff's going to chime in, but we also have an interview at 3:30, so this, yeah. Yeah, so Stella, since you have had your hand up for a while, I'll give you the last word on this topic, and we'll have to pick it up as an agenda item next week.
Sure. Thank you, Amber, for that. Very quickly, I just want to remind everyone that the issue of fertilizer from the golf course also affects the Heights. We have 2 wells that are basically on those properties or adjacent to those properties. So just throwing that out there. And then the other thing is, if anyone ever has questions about water quality, and running a district, not that you don't have it with West Neck Water, but I'd be happy to share with you the testing and everything that we go through and what needs to be disclosed to our consumers of the water every year, so they have comfort that what we're sharing with them and we're giving them is fully potable. So thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so I want to adjourn the work session so we can go into a special meeting. We have 2 resolutions to go over. So,
I second that.
okay, I'm all in favor of going into the special meeting? Aye. So, let you read the first one, I have a second one.
Okay. Whereas the town of Shelter Island has an interest in improving and protecting water quality in the various water bodies in the town, including Fresh Pond, whereas Fresh Pond, a town asset, is accessed by the public via an adjoining upland parcel, which was purchased with Community Preservation Fund monies, Turk and Rust Preserve. And whereas the water quality of Fresh Pond has deteriorated due to excessive phosphorus levels, whereas the town has received a grant from the New York State Water Quality Improvement Program, WQIP, not to exceed $260,000. And the Fresh Pond Neighbors Association has committed a gift of up to $32,500 towards this project. And whereas the WQIP requires local matching share of 25% or $65,000 towards the total expected project cost of $320,000, whereas the Suffolk County Soil and Water Conservation District offers grant funding under its municipal assistance program for the eligible projects up to $50,000, requiring a 25% match share of $12,500. And whereas in order to offset the town's matching share for the WQIP award, the town will submit a grant application to the municipal assistance program requesting an amount not to exceed $50,000. Therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island hereby authorizes the supervisor or her designee to execute any and all documents pertaining to the Suffolk County Municipal Assistance Program grant application submittal for the Fresh Pond in-water body nutrient control pilot project. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
One more.
And then be it resolved that the memorandum of understanding between the town of Shelter Island and Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County with the term of May 1st, 2023 through July 31st, 2024, extended to October 31st, 2024 on June 24th, 2024, is hereby extended again to terminate on December 31st, 2024. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, to have a motion to close the special meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carried. And now we will have a motion to go into executive session for interviews and existing and pending litigation.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay,
Oh,
that
good.
last
Mike,
conversation.
wait, hold on. Okay, thank you. Jeff, we have Timothy Hill coming in to talk to us about existing litigation that he is handling. And then we have interviews. I don't think that we need to keep you on for those.
Okay, thank you so much. I will sign off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
You too.